Yo, what's good guys? My name's Jack, welcome to the video. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about mixing for beginners. I know I don't really do beginners like titled tutorials on my channel. Like I've been having a think recently and I feel like a lot of my videos are for much more advanced producers, and not even like really advanced, just like people that kind of have a bit of experience in what they're doing. I kind of want to tailor some videos to people that are very new to producing. And I feel like this is also relevant to people that have been doing it for a while and may have skipped over some of this source basically. If you enjoy this type of content, make sure you subscribe and leave a like. Let's get into it. So let's talk about the mixer. So every DAW has a mixer, or something that looks like this. It might not be like this, but it will have the same functionality as this, depending on what DAW you use. This is for FL Studio. Specifically FL Studio 11 is what I'm using right now, but I could do this in any other version of FL Studio, it's all the same. So you've got the master channel and the mixer channel. The mixer channels, there's about 100 of mixer channels and one master channel. So basically, all these mixer channels are routed through your master channel. So when you export your beat out and you get the MP3, it records the master channel. So it's very important what effects you have on your master channel, because it doesn't matter how good you mix your beat in the mixer channels, like specifically for each instrument, because if you run it through a crappy master channel, it's going to sound crap basically. So it's important. Let's come back to this beat. So real quick, if I load up a new version of FL Studio, I don't actually have the default settings changed yet for when I open up FL Studio, which you can do. So this is the default FL Studio, what it puts on the master channel. So I feel like if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to have this on your master channel like a lot of the time, unless you turn it off. FL Studio by default has a limiter on the master. So this limiter has the gain turned up as well, and it's limited, so it's going to make your master sound horrible essentially. You definitely want to take that off, but what would you put there instead? I wouldn't put nothing there. But first of all, before I tell you what I would put on there, I'm going to show you what it sounds like having a good mix with that limiter on there, because it's very easy to just forget it's there and just mix with it on. So let's change the master preset to the default FL Studio one and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So this is what the beat sounds like with the limiter on the master. And it's very loud, but it's not punching, it's just flat and loud and just horrible basically. You don't want that. Get rid of that. This is what I put on my master. So the first thing is a soft clipper. Now a lot of DAWs have these. Obviously this one's just called Fruity Soft Clipper, and I just leave it on the default setting. It just lets everything be loud, clean and punch through and just sound good. And the last thing is just an EQ. You can use any type of parametric EQ. This one's just easier because I know exactly what I want to do. I'm just going to boost the high mid frequencies, or the high frequencies, a little bit, like 2 decibels or something, and the low frequencies like 2 decibels. I don't know why I do that, it just makes it sound cleaner. I've just been doing it for so long, I don't even know why I do it. So just listen to what the beat sounds like with this new preset. So everything is as I left it. It's a very clean preset. The second thing we're going to be talking about is EQ. I use FabFilter Pro Q3. You guys can use the stock one in FL Studio. It's just as good. So let's talk about the EQ. So this is probably the most important part of mixing, is learning how to EQ properly. And there's a fine line between doing too much and not doing enough. And you have to sort of, eventually you'll learn what is and what isn't, but you have to actually know basically. So with my melody, I've got a half speed effect on it, which is going to automatically pitch it down an octave, so it's going to be quite low. So if we just look at the EQ while I play the melody, you can see around like 200 to 300 hertz. There's a lot of stuff going on, and that is going to basically clash with your 808, your bass, and stuff in the low frequency range, which you don't want to do because it adds mud to the mix and just makes it sound bad. Makes sounds basically clash frequencies.
and you don't want that. You want everything to have its own place in the mix, and an EQ is the best way to work out what is clashing and what isn't. So most people would probably think you could just do that, which is basically like a straight cut, just completely cutting off everything virtually. Or brick wall is actually a straight cut. But what I like to do is, and what I recommend you should do is, get something that looks sort of like this, like a 36 or a 48 is perfect. Literally have this at what you want, and it's just slowly cutting everything out. It's not just a straight cut down the middle. It's a more natural sound. It's more subtle, which is what you want. That's like a very important thing with mixing, is being subtle, but also making your changes, because you want to preserve the natural frequencies of sounds and everything. You don't want it to just sound too robotic and DAW-ish. You want it to sound a bit more real. So yeah, that's the technique that you could use with the EQing to do that. So the next thing I'm going to be talking to you guys about is reverb and delay. They are helpful and they do definitely make a beat sound better. In terms of mixing, they're not essential, but no one really wants a dry sound. So this is the melody on its own with no reverb. It's very dry. It's not that nice to listen to. So if we put a reverb on it, for example, we could use Valhalla Vintage Reverb, which is my go-to. A lot of you guys will have seen this plugin before. Or we could use a stock plugin, so Fruity Reverb or whatever reverb your DAW has. The dry knob is like the actual melody itself. So if I turn off the wet, there'll be no reverb. So that's literally just like the raw signal of the melody. And the wet is obviously the reverb. And it's just reverberating the sound. So the low cut is the most important thing in the reverb, because let's say you haven't EQ'd yet, it's going to reverberate all the bad frequencies. Because with this low cut, you can cut off what sound is being reverberated, if that makes sense. So if I have it on nothing, the whole sound, all the frequencies are going to be reverberating around the mix. And that's just adding a layer of low frequency you don't want in the mix. I mean, not from your melody at least. I would say around 360, 350 is like good. You can also go more or less, but yeah, around the 300s, that's good. The high cut doesn't matter that much. I mean, 5K is good. The size of the reverb, that comes into play really with this. So yeah, that's the Fruity Reverb, obviously Valhalla Verb. I have the mix on, so this is basically the mix. Have it on like 20. Pre-delay, have it low. Decay, so like how long the reverb goes on for, like 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds. The low cut here, same thing, 350. I don't really mess with any of this stuff, but this one is good because it has presets and stuff, so this is like a great reverb plugin. I'm going to go heavy on this reverb. Yeah, I'll probably have it on like 40%. But yeah, like I said, this melody already has a reverb on it, so I'm just going to turn that one back on. So yeah, that's reverb. Delay, so let's just use a free delay. I don't use delay too much. A lot of my presets already have delay on them, which I use through like Omnisphere or whatever. I'll just go through my delay settings really quick. So delay is essentially, I'll just show you what it sounds like basically. So this is without delay, with delay. It's just echoing the sound basically. So if I have, this is my usual settings. So ping pong feedback, it's just the type of where you're going to hear the delay, the echo, and it goes like this, ping pong. The time is sort of the tempo at which it's going to echo. So if I have it on 2, it's pretty instant. 4, this is obviously, you have to go up in, like you have to double it essentially. So if I go 2, 4, 8, 16, sort of like the bars, it's like the bars basically in the beat. You know? That's just the way you do it basically. That's essentially delay. So with the delay it sounds like this. Yeah, for this particular melody I didn't really want a delay, but yeah, that's delay anyway. So I've talked a lot about effects in my videos before, and you would have seen me use a variety of different effects for my melodies and stuff. When I mean effects, I'm talking about a creative use of effects. So something such as Portal or RC20, something that's just adding, like, so if I show you RC20, it has a noise function, pitch wobble, distortion, it has a reverb, it has this like magnetic distortion type, I don't even know what that is, but it's just adding effects to it, basically like creative effects to change the sound, if that makes sense. So there's RC20, obviously there's stuff like Portal, which I really like, there's Guitar Rig, I'll load these up for you real quick. So this Guitar Rig has all this different stuff like distortions, and all these different effects basically. And then you've also got Portal, which is one of my favorites. This has the same sort of thing, and yeah, it basically just adds it basically just changes your melody. See what I mean? It's changed it a lot. So, and this is the default vinyl preset. I don't like the wobble in this melody really. So effects are great because you can really take a simple melody and just make it sound insane, and you can turn them off, turn them back on again, and it just, yeah, you don't always have to go crazy with melodies. You can just have a simple melody, add effects to it, and it sounds great. And it's also very ear catching, and it's just, if it's done right, it's great. So the last thing is going to be leveling. Leveling is basically when you go into the mixer. So leveling is essentially, you see these sliders here, these are volume sliders, and now as you can see, these are not all the same level. So I've turned stuff down, turned stuff up, depending on how that sound is, like the volume of it and where I want it to sit in the mix. A bad leveling would be if you have everything the same height, so your hi-hat is as loud as your 808 and your kick is as loud as your melody, and that's bad. You don't want that. There has to be structure in a mix. You just learn this as you go along, and if you listen to a lot of music, you will be able to quickly pick up what is at the front and what is not. Yeah, I'll level this beat for you guys real quick. So if I just reset all these to what they were by default, and if I play the full beat for you, it's gonna sound horrible, but so I'm gonna go and level this beat for you guys real quick. So when I'm doing my leveling, I'm looking at this bar here and seeing where it comes on the decibel level. So let me just keep going. So 808. So yeah, that's basically leveling. An easy way to level is if you're not sure on the volume of something, just sort of sit back, have everything else playing, mute that one thing or turn the volume all the way to the bottom and just slowly bring it up until you think it sounds perfect. When it gets too loud, stop, go back down. And yeah, that's like, for a beginner, that's like a good technique on if you're trying to learn where things should go. And I still use that technique sometimes as well, so that's a good one. So that's like the 5 elements of mixing that I use in my beats, and I feel like my mixing is pretty good. It's come a long way. When I first started producing, I actually used to pay someone to mix my beats because I just was not confident in it at all, and just slowly over the years of producing, you pick things up, you learn from different people. I never really watched tutorials like that, to be honest with you. So yeah, you just basically learn, and if you're a beginner, with these tutorials you'll learn even quicker. So, but before we end, I just want to say all of those tips, other than the master channel one, are irrelevant if you don't have good sound selection. It's very easy to mix a good sounding beat. It's very hard to mix a bad sounding beat, if that makes sense. So you could do all this mixing. If you have crap sounds, it's going to sound crap. You can't change a crap sound at the end of the day. Do you know what I'm saying? If you have a piece of shit on the floor and you paint it pink and put sparkles on it, it's still a piece of shit, if that makes sense. You can't dress it up. So basically what I'm trying to say is get good sounds, get some good drum kits,
get some good sound kits, like good melody presets especially, and yeah, it will make mixing a million times easier. And with that being said, talking about kits, make sure you check out my own kits. I just dropped a free drum kit, and there's also a bunch of new kits on there: Omnisphere banks, Electro banks, hi-hat MIDI banks, drum kits, all of it, everything. So definitely go and check that out. The link will be down below. And make sure you're subscribed for more content like this. If you want to see more beginner guides to various things such as melodies or arrangement or anything, just comment down below, let me know, and we'll see what we can do. So yeah, see you guys on the next one. Peace.
She wanna ride at the blue line, fucked on that bitch, only caught her a few times. Ay, went to the store, bought a new 9, me and bro got to her already blew mine. Ay, no, but you can't have my new line, I'm just gonna fucking kick back like a futon.